Hey everyone, what is up? And welcome back for episode 43 of Higurashi When They Cry and episode 6 of chapter 5. So, last episode was another big one. Last episode we go forward into the future, right, into 1983. We see Keiichi appear, um, and notably, Shion, shortly after Keiichi's appearance, she starts to feel a presence following her. She believes it's Satoshi for a while, until she goes to the Forbidden Storehouse, and they're jumping repeatedly. They're like making banging noises, right? And she doesn't think Satoshi would scare her like that, and so she's got this presence that she feels, and she doesn't know what it is. She leaves the storehouse, and later that night, she learns that while she is at the Sonozaki household, to be clear, she learns that Takano and Tomitake have died. And, she was obviously in the storehouse with them, so I think in her fear that she was next and that the Sonozakis were the ones that, condemned them to death, um, she, she stuns, she uses a stun gun on Mion and Oryou and throws Mion in a cell and starts to interrogate her and realizes she actually killed Oryou in the process. And just starts to whip her, like her corpse, and then dump her in the well. I think it's fair to say she's broken, right? Her fear has broken her. Um, Her fear and her anger now, right, has broken her. Um, and we're going to see her presumably kind of go on a bit of a rampage here. Because this is like the chapter 2, right, that we're seeing, but from her perspective. And so we might learn some interesting things. The thing that I'm hoping to see in this chapter, um, I don't think we're going to see it in this episode. It would be, it's not impossible, but it'd be quite a leap to see the torture, like the Keiichi in the torture dungeon scene. Because that would maybe start to really explain what's going on with this, the craziness or the curse, right? Maybe that would start to shed some light on it. I would love to figure out something about that presence. Because there's a lot I don't really understand anything about that. My best guess now is actually that it's something supernatural. I thought it was like a hallucination as part of the symptoms of the curse. I no longer believe that because of the synchronized symptoms between Tomitake and Shion, like hearing the banging noises. That wouldn't really make sense to me, at least, if that they would have both heard that if it was just a hallucination, right? Why would they hallucinate the same thing at roughly the same time, right? That doesn't really make sense. So my best idea is, like I said, it's some kind of supernatural explanation, which is something I've tried to avoid, but I don't have a better one. So for now, that's where we're at. But some more information on what that presence is would be interesting. I would definitely like that. Like I said, more information on the curse itself. I think those are the main things I'm looking for the rest of the chapter, frankly, from chapter 5. I guess also, I just for my own curiosity, I really want to know which Sonozaki stabbed Keiichi at the end. But I assume that is something we will figure out, right? I don't know how we would miss that one. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I don't know. Again, besides those two things, which I'm not sure we're gonna get a ton of info on those right now. Besides those two things, I don't know what else I'm looking for. But let's just go ahead and jump into this, see what they've got for us. Must they do this every time? Goodness. I was having such a happy dream. Satoshi-kun was in the dream. He was leading his normal, everyday life. He was back on the baseball team. Yuya and I acted normally around him because we knew that's how mature people should act. We welcomed him back, as if he had been here with us the whole time. Although he hits well in practice sessions, he still doesn't do well in a real game. Come on, Satoshi-kun. 3 strikes already? I'm cheering for you. Then Satoshi-kun pouted as he mumbled. I felt tears pouring down my face. Oh.
サトシくん。サトシくん。
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but not much to be done. Hopefully he's out there somewhere, but I can't help but envision he is not. The happy dream faded out with my sobs. The harder I tried to focus on it, the faster it faded. Soon it was all gone. I could see the bright morning sun through a crack in the curtains. You gotta get to school. I was in Mion's room at the Sonozaki house. When did I come back? I was crouching in the corner of the room and crying. A dream is a dream. I wished I hadn't woken up. One must wake up from a dream. We live in a world where there are no dreams, and that's why we always wake up. But I wasn't sure if I was the only one dreaming that dream. Because I felt like Satoshi-kun was right beside me.
Satoshi-kun? 帰ってきてくれたんだ。
There was no reply. That was the rule. If it was Satoshi-kun, I wish it'd smile at me just once. But Satoshi-kun's presence faded away, as if he were never there to begin with. I heard the phone ring by the front door. Ah, that's right. I was the only one in the house now. I had to answer it. I got up to walk to the front door. I felt unsteady, so I put my hand on the wall to support myself. You're a little hungover and tired. I hardly got any sleep. It was like I had a bad cold. Yep, there's the illness starting. Which, okay, I mean, like, look, I mentioned before that maybe my timelines don't really line up, but my timeline would predict today she would be waking up with this kind of cold, right? Like cold-like symptoms, like exhausted. So I don't know. Maybe I'm misunderstanding the beginning and what sets it off and that kind of timeline, a bit. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just misunderstanding Satoshi's case, right? Because every other case lines up, right? I don't know. I struggle to see it line up that many times and be like, no, there's nothing to that, right? You know, like, sure, there could be nothing to it. Maybe I'm looking into this too hard, but I see it line up so many times. I just can't help but feel, you know, like I have to be onto something. But if I'm not, this has obviously been my biggest reach. Biggest reach is an exaggeration, but in terms of things that I was confident in, I feel like it would probably be my biggest reach if this was just flat out wrong, right? I was very confident that I made an astute observation on that one. Now let's stop this phone from ringing and go on. I think I've kind of made my point that this could actually kind of be in line, right? I don't know. The phone continued to ring. I probably didn't have to answer it, actually. But I was still half asleep, and all I could think of was answering the phone.
はい、園崎です。
朝早くにすみませんな。Kimiyoshiでございます。おばあちゃんまだお休みですかな？
It was Uncle Kimiyoshi.
はい。昨日のが答えたみたいです。しばらく寝かせておこうと思います。
そうだね。無理に起こしちゃ悪いな。ミオンちゃんもこれから学校だよね。じゃあ枕元に伝言を置いといてもらってもいいかな。
What do you got?
わかりました。何と伝言しましょう。
昨日の件で緊急に役員会を開くことになったんだけど、それをね、今日の夕方の5時から神社の集会所でって伝えてもらえる？
わかりました。伝えておきます。
As soon as I put the phone down, it rang again.
はい、園崎です。
早朝から申し訳ありません。葛西と申しますが、ミオンさんですか？おはようございます。
葛西さんですか？おはようございます。
シオンさんはまだそちらにいらっしゃいますか？
I wasn't panicked, but I hesitated. I could tell him no. Or I could play both Mion and Shion.
シオンはさっき顔を洗ってました。呼んできますね。
I decided to play two parts. I went back and forth down the hallway and picked up the phone again. Had to make sure the time
葛
lined up.
西？おはようです。
おはようございます。シオン、今日は登校されますか？
するわけないです。たるいし。
まあそんなとこだとは。それでシオンさん、沖宮へ帰る足はありますか？若いのに迎えに行かせますが。
君吉のおじいちゃんとかそのあたりに送ってもらおうかなと思ってます。
She is gonna meet with Kimiyoshi.
私のことは放っておいてくれて OK です。
親父さんから出席日数だけは守らせるように、私の小指のためにもご協力をいただきたいもんです。
まあ気が向いたら努力します。それより葛西、聞いてる？
聞いてるとは？
昨日のあ
一応は恐ろしい話です。
これまでのたたりの犠牲者はさ、みんなダム戦争の時の戦犯だったわけじゃない？それが今年はちょいと路線が違う感じですよね。どう思う？
さあ、私の預かり知るところの話ではありません。
Kasai wasn't the type to talk too much. If it was about something complicated, he usually responded like that.
夕べの犠牲者の2人がどうしてお社様のたたりを受けたか。
いいえ。
実は夕べちょっと聞いた話だと、なんか綿流しの最中に最後殿にこっそり忍び込んだらしいよ。鍵を針金か何かで開けて。
Kasai went silent for a while. I held my breath while waiting to see how he responded. I expected him to say that he couldn't believe those people were chosen as victims just for sneaking into a storehouse. I expected him to say that it was just too unrealistic.
そうですか。バカなことを。
あ
Oh, that's not the response she wanted.
まあ富武さんもそのあたりには疎いよそ者だったってことだね。
I went along with Kasai, but I felt disturbed on the inside. Kasai didn't wonder why breaking into the ritual storehouse would justify their deaths. I'd known Kasai for a long time, which is why I knew there was a heavy meaning to what he said.
でさ、葛西、実は私もなんだけど。
入ったんですか？
うん。
西宮殿に？シオンさんが？
うん。高野さんに一緒にどうって誘われてさ、高野さんと富武さん、そして私と、ほら、前原屋敷に引っ越してきた圭一って男の子と一緒に4人で。
I heard Kasai sighing heavily. Even though he didn't say a word, I could tell he was shocked. I never known him to act this way before.
シオンさん、去年ああいう一件があったばっかりなんですよ。今度はどうけじめをつけられるおつもりですか？
去年が爪3枚だったから奮発して5枚くらい言っとく？あ、ごめん。でもふざけてるわけじゃないんだよ。
No one to force her now.
そりゃ私だってやばいとこだって認識はあったよ。少しは。でもさ、そこまでやばいことなわけ？
シオンさんは仮にも園崎本家に縁ある方です。今さらそんなこと言ってまかり通ると思いますか？
っていうか、だって私ずっと沖宮。ばあさんに嫌われて以降、Hinamizawaにはほとんど近づいてもいない。その上、学園に閉じ込められて過ごしてたんですよ。そんなの私が知るはずないじゃない。
I heard another sigh from Kasai. The sigh told me my excuses would be useless.
シオンさん、私はあなたの味方のつもりです。極力シオンさんを信じてあげたいと思っています。ですが、いくら私でもかばいきれないことがあります。第一、
ごめん、お願い来たから切ります。じゃね。
Click. I interrupted Kasai and hung up. I really wish you'd let him finish that. He might have given you something you needed to hear there. It sounds like he might be vaguely aware of what those dangers are, if you ask me. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear Kasai reject me, he who had been my ally all my life. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. That is probably what is coming.
チェ参ったな。
I could hear the sound of the cicadas. The sound made it feel like I was being cooked on a huge frying pan, making a sizzling noise. I couldn't help feeling remorseful. Now I knew that sneaking into the ritual storehouse wasn't a laughing matter. I really didn't know it at the time. Sure, the door was locked, so they didn't want anyone to go in. Then why did they change the lock? What did they say? I think it was that Rika-chama said that the previous lock was too heavy for her, so she had to change to that cheap one. That was how Takano-san broke in. If the heavy lock was still there, this wouldn't have happened. I slapped my own forehead. Ha! Then I took a deep breath. I had to calm down. What was the point of fussing now? I'd already passed the point of no return. There was no use thinking otherwise. True. The hag was already dead. Even if she wasn't, she was now at the bottom of the well. Therefore, was already past the point where I could just cut my fingers off in apology. I felt so unstable. I'd walked on the fence around the swings at the park before, as if I was walking on a tightrope. It was fun because even if I fell, it was only a very short distance, but it wouldn't have been fun if I were up really high. At that very moment, I was in fact already on a tightrope that was a lot higher than the fence at the park. As soon as I took a step, the rope behind me would vanish. I couldn't step back because there was nothing behind me. That was, in short, the current situation I found myself in. Just standing in one spot was all I could do. Even if I never took another step, I'd fall if I wasn't careful. If I forced myself to walk, the danger would only increase. But if I didn't move, I would fall eventually. I couldn't see what was ahead of me. There was no guarantee that I'd ever find firm ground. But if I stopped, there was only one fate waiting for me. I have to move onward. If staying here guaranteed death, then I'd rather try to walk, even if I'd die as a result. Even if there was a dead end ahead of me, at least I tried my hardest. In general, I try to be optimistic. I could accept my life not lasting particularly long, but I wouldn't go easily. I'd struggle as much as possible. I'd already killed the hag. For that, there could be no other punishment than death. I knew my life would end soon. In other words, I was actually already dead.
死人がなおもあがこうとしたら、そりゃ特攻あるのみでしょ。
I clenched my fists tightly as I muttered. Even if I had to die, I couldn't die easily. This was my chance to avenge Satoshi-kun. Who did it? For what purpose and why? I was going to investigate. I was going to question. I was going to expose. Yes, I was going to settle the score. I hope you do. Like, for real. Give me information. I need it. Look, I know we're already into the answer arcs, so if I guessed things correctly now with more answers, that's not as impressive. But still, the sooner I manage to guess things, the happier I will be personally. I love getting mysteries right. I truly do. Every time I get one right, the feeling of joy. Immaculate. That's why I play mystery games. Like, seriously, it is. Right? I have to try to get things right. Right? Even if it's not at the earliest possible point that I could have, I want to try to get everything right before it's fully revealed, right? To the best of my ability, right? You know? That's just how I play these games, so any information I can get in Chapter 5, I'm not going to feel bad if I use it to formulate more guesses that are maybe more accurate, you know? Or maybe not. It'd be funny if my guesses got worse. I'd carry out the plan I came up with yesterday. I could hide the hag's death somehow. All I'd have to do is say that she hadn't been feeling well since Watanagashi. I could do it all while pretending to be Mion. Just in case her friends at school became suspicious, maybe I'd start telling them I hadn't been feeling well either. In fact, I did feel groggy from my lap. Oh my goodness. English. I can speak it, fun fact. I just forgot how to for a second. In fact, not fun fact, goodness. In fact, I did feel groggy from my lack of sleep. When I became Mion, Shion would automatically disappear. I'd already told Kasai that I snuck into the shrine's storage, so he'd probably end up telling people that I was demoned away, due to the curse of Oyashiro-sama. The last person I'd have to think about was the fourth one who snuck into the ritual storehouse, Keiichi Maibara. Maybe I can use him as bait to lure out the enemy. Sorry, Kei-chan, you're going to be my bait. I felt a little bad, since I was starting to like him. With all that figured out, let's go to school. I'd gone to school as Mion before, so I knew how things worked. It was almost time to leave the house.
兄ちゃん遅い遅い待っててくれたわけ先に行っちゃってもよかったのに
あれミオンお前顔が赤くないか息も妙に荒いしみー
ちゃんひょっとして具合悪くない
I just gotta say, seeing Keiichi sprites is still so weird to me. Like, I'm not shocked that this happened, and it's the same with Satoshi, but like, I'm not shocked that we got to see them eventually, but like, I don't know, after playing as him for a full 3 chapters, And I don't think at any point did the narrator ever changed, right? It was always Keiichi's perspective. I don't think it ever changed, right? And we never really got to see him besides from CGs, right? And now he's got like full sprites. I'm like, what? This is weird. I mean, it's the same events we've already seen, but from a different perspective, of course, which is also fascinating in and of itself. I'm gonna put her hand on my
レ
forehead.
ナの手冷たいな。
みーちゃん、ちょっとだけど熱あるよ。
そんな大したことないよ。半日もすればケロッと治っちゃうって。
本当に大丈夫かよ。あんまり無理するなよ。
あれ、ケイちゃん気遣ってくれるの？嬉しいな。
I'd always thought he was a goofball, so I was a little surprised. I thought they would tease me, but they didn't.
無理しない方がいいと思うな。先生にはお休みだって伝えとくよ。
大丈夫大丈夫。風邪薬も飲んだし、すぐに効いてくると思うから。
じゃあ行こうか。くれぐれも無理するなよ。って言いながら、時間！
走らないと間に合わない。
スリリングな朝になっちゃったね。鈍った体にはちょうどいいカツかもね。走ろ。
それでは委員長。
あ、起立！気をつけ！
I made the same mistake before. I never learned, do I?
みーちゃん、本当に大丈夫かな。今日は具合悪そう。あら、そうなんですの。それはよくありませんわね。
It was a good idea to make them believe I was sick. Even if I did things differently from Mion, I had an excuse.
まあ、あれだ。
I saw right through this. Eventually. Not as things were happening. No, wait. No, I didn't really see through things like right as they were happening, but I don't remember when exactly I was firm in my theory that this was Shion.
女の子には体調が悪くなる日もあるってことだな。
僕にはそんな日はないのですよ。みぱー。
Mion's friends kept each other occupied and left me alone. Keiichi Maibara might suddenly disappear one day. I couldn't let that happen. That would be like letting a fish take the bait and swim away while I was fast asleep with a fishing pole in my hands. That's a little messed up, but dang, you're just like Chapter 1 Oishi, bro. Poor Keiichi. Poor Keiichi for real, man. I couldn't miss the moment the enemy took a bite out of Keiichi. I had to be very careful. It was impossible to keep my eyes on him 24 hours a day. Spying on him at school like this wasn't good enough. Should I have him meet with Shion and let her explain that he's in danger? Maybe we could set up a strategy together. I didn't think Keiichi realized how serious a crime it was to step into the ritual storehouse. I hadn't, after all. Since last year, all the incidents that related to the curse had probably been investigated in secret. People involved with the three families would know about the incident from last night, but Keiichi shouldn't know anything. If he knew where he stood now, he'd be more cautious too. That should make him aware of his surroundings, and maybe he would notice if anything odd took place. The teacher caught him sleeping, so she ordered him to go wash his face. He walked out into the hallway. I was sleepy too. I had to be alert, but I couldn't clear my mind due to my lack of sleep. Isn't that when the cats and dogs scenes happen? Or scene happens? I wonder if that would have any more meaning to me now. There's so many scenes I would like to review, you know? I might review them like at the end of the chapter. I don't want to like worry about it too hard while I'm in the middle of the chapter. I had to be alert, but I couldn't clear my mind due to my lack of sleep. I decided to go home early. Since I'd been pretending to be sick since morning, my request was approved. As I exited the building, I saw Keiichi washing his face.
やっぱケイちゃんはこっちの流しを選んだか。
Oh, no, wait. No, they have a talk here, right? Isn't this where she questions him about, like, whether he snuck into the storehouse?
表の方が気分いいもんね。
あ、ミヨンか。授業サボるなよな。
It looked like it felt refreshing for him to wash his face with cold water. I washed my face too, but it didn't feel as good as it looked.
ミオン、風邪の方はいいのかよ。眠いのは寝不足じゃなくて、風邪薬の副作用なんだろ？
あはは、実は内緒なんだけど、昨日はお祭りの後で親族の宴会に巻き込まれちゃってさ。それで、エンドレスに。
Gulp. I pretended to drink with an invisible glass.
徹夜明けかよ。心配して損した。
Keiichi exaggerated his reaction, but he still seemed worried.
じゃあな、俺は教室に戻るぜ。帰りは気をつけろよ。ふらふらして、側溝や用水路に落ちるなよ。
Keiichi turned around to go back to the classroom.
あ、そうそう、ケイちゃん。
I stopped Keiichi. He, in response, turned around.
なんだ？
変なことを聞くけど、深く考えないで答えてね。
Yep.
それは内容によりけりだな。
昨日の綿流しの晩さ、富武さんと高野さんに会わなかった？
I noticed Keiichi's body tense up. His reaction proved that he felt guilty about sneaking into the ritual storehouse. He was frightened that Mion Sonozaki might know about it. I guess this was enough to give him a certain impression of Mion Sonozaki.
富武さんと高野さんはわかるよね。ほら、ケイちゃん、お祭りの前日準備の時、シオンと一緒に4人でお話ししてたでしょ？
The day before? Did I have the day of the setup completely wrong? If I had that completely wrong, I mean, my timeline is completely cooked. Like, seriously. What? Did I have that wrong? Not great, but, like, if I have that wrong, but that's something I'll have to check later. I could clearly see how dismayed Keiichi felt. He was trying to come up with an excuse.
さあ、どうかな。あったような、合わなかったような。
Least obvious lie. He was both a bad liar and a bad actor. He wasn't really that intelligent at all. Well, that would make him a suitable friend for Mion. He was just a brat, unlike Satoshi-kun. Although, when it came to lying and acting, Satoshi-kun was at about the same level. I was about to say, acting like he was a liar. It was crazy. Maybe Keiichi should be credited for at least trying to tell a lie. Satoshi-kun wouldn't have even said a thing. I didn't need to be thinking about him right now.
そう。じゃあもう一つ質問ね。同じく夕べ、シオンに会わなかった？
This was a very mean question. Keiichi was perplexed as I'd expected.
それ、昨日も聞いたよな。俺、会ったかどうかわからないって答えたと思ったぜ。
Eh? I'd asked him that yesterday? He must have meant that Mion Sonozaki asked him that question. In other words, she asked him that after he left the storehouse and got back together with his friends. Damn you, Mion. When I asked her, she said she'd had no idea we went into the ritual storehouse. Shit.
そうだっけ？
Might have been lying. At the very least, I don't know. She definitely suspected that they snuck off somewhere.
また改めて聞いたら、違う答えが返ってくるかなって思ってさ。
どうして会ったかどうかをそんなに気にするんだよ。
He was getting defensive. Keiichi couldn't hide his panic as he flared up at me.
大したことじゃないの。富武さんと高野さんと悪く言ってる人たちがいるの。
Wow, she really was like she fed him so much information. Like I don't know that it's public knowledge that Shion and Keiichi were there. Like she might be worrying him for no reason. I don't know. We'll see if this was actually known.
何が悪いんだかはよく聞いてないんだけどね。
Keiichi was really perplexed now. This wasn't fun at all, but it could still be an interesting game.
私、ケイちゃんが悪いことをするなんて信じてないから。でも、ちょっとだけ聞いてみたかったから聞いてみたの。不愉快な思いをさせてごめんね。
I made sure Keiichi felt a sense of crisis, then left. That's evil. Nobody can tell us apart. We're Mion and Shion, perfect twins. I could. Eventually. When I returned to the Sonozaki house, I saw a woman with an apron on. It was a housekeeper. Her name was Shimiko-san. The hag had a few housekeepers who took care of the chores around the house.
ミオンちゃん、本当によかった。
ありゃ、シミコさん。何かご用で？
Today was her turn to come help out at the house. She'd arrived, but the gate was locked and she couldn't get in. She'd called, but there was no answer, so she had just been standing there, not knowing what to do.
バッチャですね。綿流しの祭りで面白くないことがあったみたいで、昨べからすごく機嫌が悪いんです。
ああ、そうですか。
Shimiko-san tried to remember if she had done something wrong.
別に無視してるんじゃなくて、寝込んでるだけなんです。昨べ、だいぶ遅くまでカリカリしてたから、多分まだ起きられないんじゃないでしょうか。知ってるでしょ？一度機嫌を損ねたバッチャが、どれだけの期間機嫌が悪いかを。
そうですね。困りましたね。
しばらく顔を見せない方がいいと思います。シミコさんに悪気がなくても、バッチャは何かと咎めてくるに違いありませんから、こういう時は私に任せといてください。
そうですか？それは助かりますけど。
シミコさん、申し訳ないんですけど、他のお手伝いさんにもしばらく来なくていいと伝えてもらっていいですか？バッチャの機嫌が治ったらこっそり電話しますから。しばらくそっとしてあげてください。
Shimiko-san bowed, then left on her bicycle. Anyone who had ever experienced Granny's wrath would understand. I headed into Mion's room, set her alarm clock for 2 p.m., and crawled into her bed. I needed to recover quickly. I had to be sharp, calm, and cool-headed. School should be out by 2 p.m. Maybe I'd get in touch with Keiichi. I'd have to call him. There would also be a staff meeting at the Furude Shrine Assembly Hall in the evening. All the leaders of the 3 families, their relatives, and the town council members would gather at this meeting. They were all authority figures in Hinamizawa. I'd be attending in place of the hag, who was sick. I'd worry about the rest when I got there. People shouldn't notice that Mion and the hag were missing for a long time. I didn't need to worry, as I had plenty of time. I checked the alarm once more. Then fell asleep as if someone switched me off.
もしもし。
園崎の妹の方です。こんにちは。今はお時間大丈夫ですか？
シオンか。ミオンと同じで、今日は寝不足で寝込んでるんじゃないかと思ったぜ。
え？ひょっとしてお姉、お姉らしい。
Keiji had no idea that the Mion he saw earlier was actually me. He didn't notice when we talked in person, so there's no way he would notice on the phone. I never knew that playing 2 roles would be so much fun. To feel such enjoyment in this game of life or death. Maybe I was getting used to this situation. Or maybe my senses had gone numb.
ごめんな。ちょっと親が電話待ちをしてるんで、そんなに長話はできないんだ。何の用だ？
お話ししたいことがあったんですけど、長電話が無理じゃ仕方ないですね。
じゃあさ、会って話をしないか。ついでに図書館にも案内してもらえるとありがたい。
図書館って駅前の私立図書館ですか？別にいいですよ。バイトのついでってことで。
We decided to meet in Okonomiya. It wasn't easy to get there from Hinamizawa, but I had to hurry. I couldn't run into Keiichi as he was heading there himself. I recalled that the key to the hag's motorcycle was in her secret drawer. The hag usually got driven around for public events, but when she had her own errands, she rode her motorcycle. Keiichi, I assumed, was going to ride his bicycle. I tried to get to Okonomiya before he did. Keiichi arrived quite a bit later than me. Motorcycles are faster, after all. There were hardly any traffic lights to worry about on the way here either.
ミオンと違って、シオンは待ち合わせ時間を守るな。しみじみ。
お姉を標準にされるといろいろと困ります。
少しフラフラしてないか？お前も夕べは寝不足だろ。隠しても無駄だぞ。で、学校を早退したに違いない。
残念でした。私はそもそも今日はずる休みしてますので。私、お姉より要領いいですから。
She's actually like playing this off so well. Although Keiichi is a little more intuitive than, you would have expected there.
おいおい、学校をずる休みするの要領いいとは言わないと思うぞ。
じゃあ先に用事を片付けます？時間もそんなにないですから。図書館へ行くんですよね。
ああ、頼むよ。お袋の借りてる本の返却期限が今日までらしいんで。図書館は遠いのか？
すぐ近くですよ。
I meant it when I said we didn't have much time. I had to hurry a little. I was just going to talk to him on the phone, but I ended up coming all the way to Okonomiya. After our talk, Keiichi would slowly head back to Hinamizawa on his bicycle. I'd have to rush back while making sure I didn't run into him. Otherwise, I couldn't make it on time for the meeting. Maybe I could be a little late, but since I needed to hear everything they were going to discuss, I didn't want to be. This was the Shishibone Public Library. It was sizable, filled with a collection of moldy, smelly books. But they did have air conditioning, and it was quiet. It was the perfect place for when you wanted to be alone. After Satoshi-kun disappeared last year, I came here a lot to think about various things. This was where I first met Takano-san. I didn't want to run into her with Keiichi in tow, but then I remembered that she was already dead. That'll do it! Guess I don't have to run into her now. The first floor of the building was occupied by government offices. The library itself was on the second floor, so we had to walk up a huge staircase to get there. I tasted the cool air on my skin as I walked through the automated door. Unlike outside, it was very quiet in here. The room temperature was both comfortable and suitable for books. I could smell the scent of old pages.
どこの図書館も似たようなもんだな。
Keiichi walked up to the return table after he said so. Because it was a weekday, there was hardly anyone around. It really was very quiet. I was going to chat about some ordinary things, and then move on to the main subject. After Keiichi returned the books, I invited him to the inner section of the library. Keiichi knew Mion well, but he didn't know me at all. He showed an interest in our life story. This was exactly where Takano-san told me about the true history of Hinamizawa a year ago. I was about to tell Keiichi about things that were very similar to that. Did God have a sense of irony?
言われてみれば、例のおもちゃ屋も親類の人が経営してるみたいだったな。そういえば、エンジェルモートも親類の人が経営してるんじゃないのか？
I told him the reason why the Sonozaki family was so powerful in this area. I assumed that since Keiichi came from the city, there was a good chance he couldn't even begin to understand how one old family could literally control an entire area. Unless I explained to him how powerful the Sonozaki family was, he wouldn't understand what kind of danger was barreling toward him.
特に金融、不動産関係は強いですね。あと、商工会議所の役員も何割かは、園崎姓かその親類がついてます。沖宮一帯を評伝に、市議会議員と県議会議員にも園崎がいますし。
ちょっと待て。なんだかすごい話になってきたぞ。沖宮の町中に親類が経営する店があって、特に金融、不動産に強い。しかもその上、商工会議所の役員の何割かが親類で、しかも地元選出の議員までいて。
Keiichi counted with his fingers. He was clearly surprised to hear all that about the Sonozaki family. It seemed he was flexible enough to accept even something that sounded outrageous to him. He was starting to understand things, although slowly. The way he viewed Shion and Sonozaki was changing little by little, too. That should be enough background information. Now I could go on to explain about Mion Sonozaki, the successor. Then I'd change the subject, like Takano-san did with me. I'd go on to talk about the curse of Oyashiro-sama, and then the series of mysterious deaths.
ひょっとして、園崎家って、この辺り一帯じゃ、すごいんじゃ。
ねえ。
What's up?
すごいんです。
Oh man, a fat man with a cigarette suddenly cut into our conversation. Oishi? Why was he here?
どうも、こんにちは。今日はデートですかな？羨ましいですね。
そうだと思ったら邪魔しないでほしかったですね。おいさん。
What timing? It couldn't be coincidence. I knew this man too well. He was crafty, sly, and clever. His presence here just can't be a coincidence. Did he see us somewhere in town and follow us? But why? Did he need something from me, Keiichi, or perhaps the both of us? From what I could guess, I didn't think it was me that he wanted something from. It was almost like he was trying to keep Keiichi away from me. Oishi was aware I gave false testimony to protect Satoshi-kun last year. Maybe he didn't think he could talk to Keiichi if I was around. Why did Oishi need to talk to Keiichi? It must be about the incident from yesterday. I'm sure there were plenty of plainclothes officers at the festival, so they had to have seen who was last with the victims. In other words, Keiichi and me. But Oishi knew I was hard to deal with. That was why he was focusing on Keiichi at present. Why did he have to show up at a time like this?
前原さんでしたよね。あなたもタフな人ですね。園崎姉妹を二股かけるなんて。
いや、そんな、二股だなんて。
Keiichi looked at me, hoping for assistance. He blushed. The way he panicked reminded me of Satoshi-kun. That aside, this wasn't going well. Oishi might even start talking about my relationship with Satoshi-kun. I didn't want him to, nor did I want Keiichi to have any preconceptions. Oishi took a quick glance at me. His eyes told me something. He was purposefully talking about the things I'd rather not talk about. He was basically telling me to leave or he'd continue on to something that was worse than what they were currently talking about. He didn't use words, but his eyes clearly communicated that anyway. Damn that big fat weasel.
あ、ごめんなさい、ケイちゃん。私もうバイトの時間なんです。
あ、そうなのか？
I realized that I wouldn't achieve anything like this, even if I stayed longer, so I used my part-time job as an excuse to leave. Oishi looked at me and grinned. Damn it. He won today, but I'll win next time. No you won't. Bro, Oishi kind of cooks you this chapter. I'm not gonna... Well, okay. I don't know. In the end, you might... I don't know. I'm saying that maybe in the end you won. Like, actually. Is Shion... Like, we'll see how things played out. There's a chance Shion won in the end.
そういえば、今日はシオン、なんなら。
うん、また今度。あ、バイトが終わったら電話します。夜なら電話大丈夫ですよね。
ああ、大丈夫だと思う。
じゃあ、今夜電話しますので、その時に。じゃあ。
Interesting. I mean, okay, wow. I don't remember chapter 2 as well as I feel like I should. He definitely talks to Oishi there. Goodness. What exactly... I remember him going down, feeling not too hot, and kind of realizing the consequences of his actions. Kind of want to review that conversation. Not right now. But... Like, I don't know. Did he... Like, Oishi knew, right? Am I crazy? Like, Oishi knew. I'm pretty sure I literally titled that episode Realizing the Consequences of Our Actions or something. Right? Like... And for that to be true, I kind of can't help but feel like, I don't know, maybe Keiichi kind of drew the connection rather than Oishi being like, I know you were in the storehouse, right? Like, but I feel like he has a good idea that he was, right? Makes you wonder where he's getting that information, right? Like, where is he getting that information? Like, is he hearing things from the Sonozakis? Did he hear that from Kasai somehow? It's the only person that we know factually knows, right? That is alive. I mean, you know, Takano's probably alive in my opinion. I could be wrong about that. But, like, I don't know. Unless she's in league with Oishi. Which would be kind of crazy, by the way. If the villain was in league with Oishi. Doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I could see Oishi being, like, a little more evil than we thought. But him being in league with, like, the villain, I don't see it. Or else he wouldn't have bothered with the whole thing at the end, like, we gotta find the truth! Right? Like, you know, Akasaka, we must find the truth. We can't let this lie, you know? Like, I don't know. Unless it was all a crazy ruse. And it could be. It could be. I don't know. But let's just keep moving for now. Let's kind of see Shion's perspective a bit on things. I might want to rewatch that scene. How much does Oishi know at this point? Like, what are his goals? Does he kind of... I think he probably already understands that, in my opinion, that Shion and Keiichi were there. How does he know that? Is it just, like, intuition? That someone fed him this information? That's what's interesting. We're going to have to see. The hag's motorcycle had become my primary means of transportation. My next stop was the staff meeting at the Furude Shrine's assembly hall. It was easy to imagine how a normal meeting would play out if it were just celebrating the end of Watanagashi. But today's staff meeting was likely going to be as strained as the Sonozaki family councils. Yes, this staff meeting was going to deal with the heart of Hinamizawa. I couldn't let my guard down, even for a moment. I rested for a while at the house, then left for the meeting. I walked up the long stairs to the Furude Shrine. At the top, I saw some elderly men smoking in front of the hall. Since they had a minor fire a long time ago, it had been made into a non-smoking area.
Ade, Mion-chan kai?
The head of the Kimiyoshi family, Uncle Kimiyoshi, noticed me and waved. He must not have expected Mion to come alone. Normally, it would have been either the hag by herself or Mion tagging along as an assistant.
バッチャは夕べのあれ以来機嫌を相当悪くしちゃいまして、誰も近づけず布団にこもりきりです。
They all understood how troublesome she was when she was in a bad mood. They smiled bitterly in sympathy.
じゃあ今日はミヨンちゃんが園崎家当主代行ということでいいね。お嬢さんから話とか聞いてる？
一応。
What did he mean? Has Oryou-san told you anything? Hold on.
じゃあ今日はミヨンちゃんが園崎家当主代行ということでいいね。お嬢さんから話とか聞いてる？
Dude, I'm like almost positive her name is actually Oryou. I'm gonna keep, like I said, I'm gonna keep saying Oryou, but I am pretty sure I'm saying her name wrong. That line by itself didn't really explain much. The staff meeting was usually led by the mayor, the head of the Kimiyoshi family, and he had asked me, as the substitute for the Sonozaki family head, if I'd heard anything from her. I then realized who was supposed to lead today's senior staff meeting. Why did I say senior staff meeting? To lead today's staff meeting.
おじじゃなくて、君吉さん、今日の会合だけど、司会私じゃないと。
I wonder if this right there kind of makes her, like, reveals her real identity to Kimiyoshi, because right, like, that was a thing that, like, Shion said. Was that? No, I think that was a both of them thing, because I think I originally thought it was only a Mion thing, and that's why, like, I thought it was, like, Mion disguised as Shion at first, right? Like, in the chapter, which at the time was a decent call, in my opinion, but, like, I do think that read was wrong, obviously. Well, it was wrong, I think. It was wrong. So I think both of them use that term. According to the ranking order at the family councils, any substitute for the Sonozaki family head is above the Kimiyoshi family head. In other words, I'd have to lead today's meeting. There was no way I could do that.
大丈夫大丈夫。おじいちゃんがやるから、ミヨンちゃんは座ってればいいよ。お嬢さんから聞いてる話があったら、話してくれればいいからね。
I do kind of wonder if that's part of why he dies. What if Kiichiro, like, kind of realizes this is Shion?
村長、そろそろ始めますかいね。全員揃いましたね。
The smokers put out their cigarettes and went back into the hall. The tables were set in a horseshoe shape, and I was told to sit next to the chair reserved for the chief. The seat opposite mine was empty. Considering its location, it was probably for the Furude family head, Rika Furude. But somebody had said earlier that everybody was already here. Either Rika-chama had called in absent, or the empty seat was just a formality. Knowing the subject of this meeting, I don't think that the Furude family head would even want to attend. Even if Rika-chama actually attended, she wouldn't be able to say anything. All she'd usually do at the Sonozaki family councils was draw pictures on a notepad. She would probably end up drawing pictures in this meeting too. Besides, they probably didn't want her to hear anything unpleasant. In this way, the empty Furude family seat was easily explained. When everyone was seated, the head of the Women's Association served tea. She gave me an evil look, trying to tell me to help out. I got up and did so. After that, everyone fell quiet, and the secretary stood up.
それでは皆さん、本日は大変お忙しい中、緊急にお集まりいただきまして、誠にお疲れ様です。それでは初めに、村長さんからご挨拶をいただきます。村長、どうぞ。
座ったままで失礼します。ケンちゃんも座ったままでいいよ。今日は平日の夕方にお集まりいただきまして誠にありがとうございました。また昨日は綿流しを本当にお疲れ様でございました。おかげさまで本年も事故もなく大変な盛況のうちに終了させることができました。
No, there was one.
祭りにも村中から大勢がいらっしゃり、本当に素晴らしい祭りになったものと思うとります。来たの何人だっけ？大本営発表だと5000人だそうです。
It's a lot of people. Wahahaha. Everyone laughed except me.
今後もますますの文化の向上のために一丸となって頑張ってまいりたいと思います。
Why are they laughing at that? Is that like a greatly exaggerated number, or like, is that why they're laughing? Or I feel like it's gotta be.
よろしくお願いいたします。
Clap, clap, clap. An applause with only 8 people doesn't sound so great.
それでは引き続き、議事の方に入ってまいりたいと思います。本日の議事を君吉村長さんにお願いしようと思います。承認していただける方は拍手でご承認願います。
Clap, 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 clap.
ありがとうございます。それではただいま万座でのご承認をいただきましたんで、君吉村長さんに司会を譲りたいと思います。よろしくお願いします。
どうもケンちゃんお疲れ様。では司会を引き継ぎましたので、申し訳ない。カーテン閉めましょうかね。
Everyone closed the curtains nearest to them. The sun was still up, but with all the curtains closed, the room became very dark. The village chief explained the details of the incident, as well as what went on with the police. A police vehicle discovered Tomitake-san's body on its way back to Okonomiya last night. Oishi's special curse unit was standing by, expecting something to happen for the 5th time, so they responded quickly. Since Tomitake-san and Takano-san were rarely apart, Oishi got in touch with the neighboring prefectural police departments and asked them to look for her. As a result, they found a burned body of a woman in the mountains of the Gifu prefecture, and the body was then identified as Mio Takano. Considering the circumstances, the police ended up labeling the incident as the 5th of the ongoing series of mysterious deaths. When he finished, there was dead silence. I watched to see who would speak first. Nobody said a thing. Then I noticed Kimiyoshi-san looking at me. Ah, this was where the head of the Sonozaki family would speak.
ミオンちゃん、お嬢さんは何か言ってたかい？
Everyone looked in my direction. I was sure they could see the hag in me.
園崎家当主代行、園崎ミオンです。本日は当主お涼に代わりまして、よろしくお願いいたします。
I became Mion. I tried to become as cold and unfeeling as the Mion I witnessed a year ago. That cold version of Mion was inside of me. That was me. I was her.
不幸にして、お社様のお怒りは5年目にも下されることになりました。大変悲しいことです。
Everyone was held captive by my words. I wasn't a little girl anymore. The hag was speaking through my mouth. They all heard me and trembled in fear.
どうして今年もたたりがあったか、わかる方はいますか？
After my question, everyone whispered to each other.
そう、西宮殿の金を犯し、土足で聖域を踏み荒らして汚れを持ち込んだからです。
なんちゅうこと！
A few elderly men got up and yelled.
あ、本当にが信じられん小僧どもだ。腹渡引き裂いても飽きたりんガキどもじゃん。お社様、お怒りをお鎮めください。なんてこと、なんてこと。お社様、これだからよそもなすっか。なんも考えんねえ。ガクガクもないよ。あれすってれんこってなるね。バチ当たりどもんが。
You think she's gonna mention Shion and Keiichi being there? Well, herself and Keiichi, of course. The angry old men yelled even as they trembled in fear. Their sudden change scared me more than a little. Even Uncle Kimiyoshi, who was usually so gentle and sweet, became like a demon of war, crushing those who broke the rule of the ritual storehouse, cursing. It had become like a raging ocean inside the assembly hall. Their yells spun about like a whirlpool. They roared, crashed, and howled. Even while doing nothing but watch, I could feel myself turning pale. Mion threatened me yesterday, and Kasai had been shocked this morning. What I saw before me was similar to that. Even the sweet and gentle Uncle Kimiyoshi was saying they deserved to die. Yeesh, not so sweet and gentle. I was fearful of the sudden change in those elderly men. More than anything, the fact that they all believed that those people deserved to die for trespassing is what terrified me. It wasn't just that, of course. The real thing I was scared of was that I was one of the people they wanted dead. In other words, it was almost like they were telling me to die of the curse. If they were to find out I snuck into the ritual storehouse, it was very possible that they would strangle me on the spot. Actually, they might not kill me that easily. By then, I was certain. The people in this room were true believers in Oyashiro-sama, just like the hag. They wouldn't hesitate to murder whoever made Oyashiro-sama angry on his behalf. Even if they didn't carry out the killings themselves, they would pretend they didn't see anything. Yes, not even if my head was cut off right in front of them. Everyone here would act in collusion and say I never attended today. If they all testified that they waited and I didn't show, I'd be demoned away. It would be far too easy for them to erase someone and have them disappear. There was no mistake. The people linking the hag and the curse were definitely here at this meeting. I continued speaking. I was Mion Sonozaki. I was on the side responsible for the curse. Therefore, at that moment, I didn't need to worry about anything. Nobody could tell the difference between Mion and me. That's what would keep me safe.
お静かにお願いします。
ほら、静かに静かに。
Uncle Kimiyoshi helped me to quiet everyone, but his tone was violent. He really scared me. Everyone gradually became silent.
西宮殿に忍び込んだ族は
Yeah,
4人。
she is going to say it.
あと2人います。
People once more became restless upon hearing that, but Uncle Kimiyoshi yelled at them again and they settled down.
富武さんと高野さんは分別のつくお年だったはずですからね。お社様のたたりが直ちに下りましたが、もう2人は子供です。まだたたりは免れていますが、何のけじめもなく許されることはありません。
Everyone stayed quiet that time. They'd all turned genuinely pale, trying not to miss a word I said. After all, they were all thinking that the kids I mentioned could be their own relatives, or even grandchildren. They wanted to know who they were, to put their minds at ease.
その2人の老石者は、園崎シオン、そして前原圭一。
I could feel the air getting drier. It was so dry it almost felt like it was going to start making a crackling noise.
園崎シオンはすでに
I couldn't even hear the old people breathe. I took a peek at Uncle Kimiyoshi, who was sitting next to me. He'd adored Shion as if she were his own granddaughter, but she had been demoned away. I wanted to see how distressed and sad he'd look, and when I saw his face, I felt a sensation on my back, as if my skin itself was making a cracking noise. Bro, he knows! He didn't even have an expression on his face. Uncle Kimiyoshi adored me. I loved him, and I thought he loved me too. That was why I expected him to be saddened after learning that I met with such a cruel fate. What was I thinking? The memory of his warm smile shattered inside of me. There was no way of describing the fear I experienced in that moment. In mere words. He had suddenly changed into someone I didn't even recognize. Uncle Kimiyoshi noticed me looking at him and spoke.
もう一人の前原圭一は
まだです。
I had to take a deep breath to regain my composure.
西宮殿を犯した4人、すべてにお社様はたたりを下されるでしょう。前原圭一も例外ではありませんよ。
Chilling looks, cruel looks, emotionless looks, shrewd looks, and the looks of people who were about to snap. I could feel the demons chewing my words while they stared at me with their sharp eyes. I could see some of them sticking their snake-like tongues in and out. I could see flames in some of their eyes. They were memorizing the names of the intruder the curse had yet to fall upon. And so the meeting went on. We were told not to tell the police too much, to report what they asked us, and to hold another meeting whenever something of significance happened. If something unexpected took place, we were to get in touch with either the head of the Kimiyoshi family or the head of the Sonozaki family for instructions on what to do. With those closing remarks, the meeting was over. And now things, they're about to take a turn. Because this is where I assume she's going to capture Kiichiro and or kill him. I don't know if she kills him on the spot and like that's that, or if she brings him. I know she brings him back to the the murder dungeon at some point, but like, does she torture him first, like interrogate him? I don't know. Probably, if I had to guess. It was already getting dark outside. Being in a valley surrounded by mountains, once the sun went down in Hinamizawa, it got dark quickly. Even if it was hot during the day, it would cool down quickly at night. The elderly people said goodbye to each other and left on their bicycles, on their motorcycles, or in their cars. Uncle Kimiyoshi waved them goodbye and started to head home himself. I called out to him.
君吉さん、この後ご予定はありますか?
I called him Kimiyoshi-san instead of Uncle Kimiyoshi. He stopped.
いや、何もないよ。
家へ寄ってもらえませんか?
お嬢さんが呼んでるのかい?
はい、直接会って話したいことがあるんだとか。
じゃあやるかな。
Yeah, not quite. You're gonna get hit by a stun gun, buddy. Or maybe she's gonna learn not to stun old people this time. Uncle Kimiyoshi arrived at the Sonozaki house. He often came to the house to have secret meetings with the hag, so he wasn't suspicious at all. I invited Uncle Kimiyoshi into the living room. I served him a cup of tea and told him I was going to fetch the hag. I left the room and killed some time down the hallway.
ばっちゃ、着替えたから来るそうです。ちょっと時間かかるかもです。
いやいや、ゆっくり待ってるから。
Uncle Kimiyoshi relaxed as he sipped his cup of tea. I sat next to
多
him.
分、シオンの話じゃないかなと思います。
I mentioned my name and watched for his reaction. Uncle Kimiyoshi looked so grim. I couldn't even tell if he heard me. I decided to continue speaking until he reacted in some way.
シオンは去年がありますからね。北条家の人間なんかと 懇意になるなんて。
去年は、爪を剥いで許してもらったんだったね。
ええ、3枚剥いで。
Uncle Kimiyoshi folded his arms and thought for a while.
シオンちゃんは今は
地下にいます。
様子はどうなんだい？
It's getting a lot harder to deny, based on the way that meeting went, that the Hinamizawa brass are maybe like in on this, like Kimiyoshi, for example. I don't know, unless that question was like it meant to imply that he knows that this is Shion. Asking that like implies that Mion should know where the one who got demoned away was, which is telling. Uncle Kimiyoshi sounded worried. When I heard that, I felt relieved that Uncle Kimiyoshi was on my side. His anger in the assembly hall was just an act. I don't know if
ずっ
I'd say
と泣いて
that.
いますよ。
ミオンちゃん、率直なところ、おりょうさんはシオンちゃんのことをどうするって言ってるんだ？
具体的なことは聞いてません。ご存知と思いますけど、バッチャは怒りが度を超えると逆に無口になりますからね。
西宮殿に入ったんだもんな。しかも自分とこの身内がな。そりゃそうだろうな。
Uncle Kimiyoshi thought that the hag must be unsure of what to do with Shion.
おじいちゃんはシオンの処遇どうなると思います？
そりゃ爪3枚よりもっとむごいことになるだろうな。おりょうさんのことだから身内に甘くするってことはないと思う。むしろ身内だからこそ厳しく当たるだろうからな。
何しろ西宮殿に入ったんですものね。それは許されないことでしょうね。
さすがにな、西宮殿はな。
でもシオンもかわいそうかもしれません。だってずっとHinamizawaから遠ざけられてきたんです。西宮殿の不可侵性は知ってはいたでしょうが、そこまでいけないことだという認識は多分なかったんでしょうから。
確かにシオンちゃんは不憫だよな。
私かシオンか背中の入れ墨を見る以外に何もない。ミオンとシオンなんて区別自体が何の意味もないのに。
Twins are proof of bad luck. One should be eliminated as soon as they are born. Such is the family precept. The hag actually put her hands around my neck right after I came out of the womb. That's how the story went, at least. In the end, the hag didn't kill me, but instead pretended I didn't exist. She forced herself to call one of us Mion and the other Shion. She adored Mion and hated Shion. My sister and I never understood why we had to go through that. We didn't care who was Mion or Shion. So one day we came up with an idea. We decided to share the joy Mion experienced and the sadness Shion experienced. We often switched places. We were both Mion, and at the same time, we were both Shion. Adults around us tried to put different clothes on us or style our hair differently so they could tell us apart. That was nonsense. No matter what they did to us, all we had to do was switch places, and nobody could tell us apart. Finally, they decided that we switched places because we were always together. On that day, Shion got to go to an amusement park. Since then, we've been separated.
ミオンちゃん。
私にはシオンがどういう処遇になるか想像もつきません。そしてどんなことに決まっても意見できる立場にありません。バッチャは身内であればむしろ意見を聞かない人ですし。
そうだな。お嬢さんの悪いところだよ。
シオンは園崎シオンでなければとっくに殺されていたことでしょう。死に準ずる罰が果たしてどのようなものか私には想像もつきません。殺されなかったにしたって多分一生日の光を見ることはできないでしょう。つまりは鬼隠しということかと。
ミオンちゃん、シオンちゃんは反省してるんだろ？
ええ。
In response, Uncle Kimiyoshi tapped my shoulder and then slapped his own chest. He smiled reliably.
大丈夫。シオンちゃんがちゃんと反省してるなら、鬼隠しなんかなるもんか。 君吉のおじいちゃんに任せなさい。
本当に大丈夫なんですか？
そりゃあお嬢さんは私に意見されたら怒りはするだろうけどさ。でもおじいちゃんは引かないよ。シオンちゃんはしっかり反省してるんだから、許してあげてほしいってちゃんと頼んでみせるから。
Tears began to fall from my eyes. I knew it. Uncle Kimiyoshi was my ally after all. He said he would forgive Shion. He was my ally. I was so very happy.
本当に
How did this
大
turn
丈夫でしょう
How
か？
did this turn into him dying? This seems like a not like a setup for that.
去年の北条聡くんみたいに鬼隠しになっちゃったりしないでしょうか？
Uncle Kimiyoshi smiled reliably again and told me,
罰当たりの北条家の坊主ならいざ知れず、園崎家のシオンちゃんならきっと許してもらえるって。
I might have figured out what sets her off. Huh?
北条家の坊主って聡くんのことですか？去年の犠牲者の。
北条の連中は仕方ないさ。村を丸ごと売ろうとした売国と同然の奴らだ。そういう奴らなら鬼隠しだってありえるだろうけど。
Never
そ
mind.
りゃあ北条家だからの話だよ。
I figured out how this turns into a setup of Shion killing and or interrogating and torturing Kiichiro. Huh? Huh? Huh?
北条家の連中は一族老頭みんな呪われて当然だ。鬼隠しに会うのはそういう連中なんだから。だからシオンちゃんは大丈夫。大丈夫なんだよ。
おじいちゃん、でも聡くんは去年シオンがけじめをつけたから見逃してもらえることになったんじゃないの？
けじめ？なんの？
ほら、爪を3枚剥いだじゃないですか。葛西さん、吉郎おじさん、それから聡くんで3人分3枚。
Was one of them for her?
3枚ってそういう意味だったのかい？
Huh? What?
あの3枚はそういう意味じゃなかったんですか？
いや、合ってるよ。関わった人間が3人だから3枚の爪でけじめとしたんだよ。そう私も聞いてるよ。でも葛西さん、吉郎さん、
And Shion.
それからシオンちゃんで3枚だと聞いてたよ。
What? Oh no. Eh? What? Huh? What? I endured excruciating pain. The first one was my left pinky, then the ring finger, and then the middle finger. People held me down so I couldn't move, but I endured. I had to endure 3 nails. I didn't know which nail was for Satoshi-kun. If my middle finger was for Satoshi-kun, I'd have to endure until the middle finger was done so that Satoshi-kun would be forgiven. That was why I endured. Even Mion said afterwards, everything was forgiven. Huh? Mion, didn't you say Satoshi-kun was forgiven? Didn't you? That's what I heard. I think that's what I heard. Or did I? Huh? I felt the air move. There shouldn't have been a breeze in that room, but I felt it anyway. The cool air stroked the back of my neck. That was when my true self stood right behind me and nodded. Although there was no wind, my hair billowed. The burning wickedness buried deep inside my eyes became visible.
どうして北条聡くんは鬼隠しにあったのでしょう？聡くんのご両親は確かに村を売ろうとしました。お社様のたたりがあったのは当然です。でも聡くんはその両親の子供であっただけ。
Bro said the exact wrong thing to keep himself alive here.
その聡くんにどんな罪が？
ミオンちゃん？
聡くんにどんな罪があったのかと尋ねています。あなたはさっき罰当たりな北条家の坊主なら鬼隠しにあっても当然と言いました。鬼隠しにあっても当然などんな罪があったのかと聞いているのです。
Kimiyoshi didn't know what to say to that sudden question. He seemed dismayed.
聞かずともわかります。園崎お涼が決めたのです。お社様のたたりが及ぶのは北条の姓を持つすべての人間と決めたから。
まあ、待ってみやんちゃん。別にそういうことが決まってるわけじゃない。
決めたわけではないので。
そうだよ。そんなことを決めたことなんかない。
And who did?
北条家にはお社様のたたりが
If he says it was my... Don't tell me he's about to say it was my decision.
そういう話をおぼろげにしたことはあっても、そんなにはっきりとしたことを言及したことは一度もないし、誰もしてないよ。
ではさっきあなたが口にしたという言葉は何を根拠に出たものなのですか？
ごめんよみやんちゃん。あれは言い過ぎたよ。謝る。
そういうことです。北条家なら何があってもたたり、北条の名を冠していればどうなろうが知ったことではないという、そういう考えが蔓延していることが問題なのです。サトシ君に罪があろうがなかろうが、北条という姓があればそれで汚らわしい、そういう考えが蔓延していることが問題なのです。
You think he's realized by now that this is Shion?
そしてあなたはその蔓延でいぶされた汚れた思考に汚染された迷信盲信、許せない、お前のような存在が許せない、お前のような奴がサトシ君たち一家を追い詰めてあんなにもすり減らして、サトシ君がかわいそう、本当にかわいそう、彼が何をしたの？何もしてない、何もやってない、ただ北条であっただけ。それにどんな罪が罰がたたりが呪いがどうして降りかからねばならなかったのか、一体サトシ君に何の罪があったというのか。
This voice actor is so good. Oh my. I'm not doing the screams, I'm sorry. Kimiyoshi's upper body bent backwards and fell onto the floor. That was that. I put my stun gun back in my pocket. Another one.
ごめん、シオン。今、なんて言った？
ゆうべ、高野さんと富武さんが死んだんだそうです。高野さんは焼死体で、富武さんは自殺みたいな感じで、今朝知ったんです。お父さんが親類の人からの電話で話してるのを聞いて。
Kimiyoshi, bro. You said the exact wrong thing. As I thought, Keiichi didn't know anything about what happened after the festival last night.
マスコミに報道されないのは当然なんです。過去にそうだったから。
Keiichi insisted that unless he heard about it on the news, it couldn't be real. But the investigations into the series of mysterious deaths are done in secret now. Of course, he didn't hear about it on the news.
村長とか、あと園崎家出身の金バッジが警察に思いっきり圧力をかけたんだって聞いてます。
じゃあつまり二人の死は秘密裏に処理されてしまったということか。
そういうことです。もちろん警察は捜査をしてますよ。でも秘匿捜査ということなので、捜査活動にはかなりの制限が加えられているそうです。これは事実上の捜査妨害と言えるでしょうね。
信じられない。人が死んだのにそれが公にされずひそやかに処理されるなんて。
もっと噛み砕いて言うと、綿流しの夜に誰が死んでも公にはならないということです。
そんなバカな話があってたまるか。
ケイちゃん、私以前にお社様のたたりは村人が起こしてるかもしれないって言いましたよね。つまりそういうことなんです。このhinamizawa沢では毎年綿流しの夜にお社様のたたりということにして誰かを殺してもいい土壌がいつの間にか作り上げられているんです。
I don't think that's quite true. It might not be too far. Yes, that's the truth about the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa, also known as Oyashiro-sama's curse. On the day of Watanagashi, 2 people will be killed. The perpetrators are using the curse of Oyashiro-sama as an excuse to kill one victim and make another disappear. That's why the curse of Oyashiro-sama takes place. That's what happens in Hinamizawa, and that's what happens with the curse. What Kimiyoshi said is all true. Infecting everyone with the idea that the enemy from the dam conflict deserved to die was the root of all this. That was the system of vague commands used in the Sonozaki family, created by its head, Oryou. One thing that must be mentioned about the command system is that the person giving the orders and the one executing them didn't need to interact in any way. Though Oryou was the commander, she never gave actual orders. She only had to expect something to happen. Every single one of the family council members around her would want to satisfy that expectation if given the chance. They didn't have to be proactive about satisfying it. They could be passive too, but when the chance arose, anyone who knew Oryou's intentions could potentially become the one to execute her orders. Therefore, Oryou would never know who actually executed her order, and none of their relatives knew it either. But they all knew things would conclude just as Oryou wanted, and they could assume it was one of their own who did it for her. Very good at hiding who is truly doing things, if I do say so myself. This passive support system was thoroughly effective, and it spread all over the village. Its ties became even tighter after the dam conflict. Anyone could be the one to execute Oryou's orders. Therefore, everyone supported each other. If someone did something, then the others would try to satisfy Oryou's expectation in different ways. For example, they'd come up with false evidence or otherwise passively interfere with an investigation. Even if they didn't know exactly who they were protecting, they'd still work to protect... Oh my goodness. Excuse me. Even if they didn't know exactly who they were protecting, they'd still work together to protect whoever it was. Yes, I'd finally figured out how it all worked. Phrased in a more organized manner, it would go as follows. The system of killing 2 people who are unwanted by the village each year required 3 elements. The first element was a region of solidarity. It was created during the long and unique history of Hinamizawa. The villagers' bonds became even tighter during the dam conflict. That was one of the conditions for this place to have a curse. It was an element that was already in the region, not one that could be created. The next element was having the same moral standards. This was a very important element, as the curse wouldn't have happened without it. Also, this element was created by Oryou Sonozaki herself, and that was why she could claim that this system was established by her own will. Having the same moral standards meant that everyone everywhere acknowledges the same enemy. Even when everyone in the village joined together, it would be meaningless if they all didn't know exactly who the enemy was. During the dam conflict, Oryou Sonozaki made the identity of the enemy very clear to everyone. They couldn't just say that they were against the dam construction and that the government was their enemy. That wasn't clear enough. The government didn't really pinpoint who the enemy was, but Oryou made enemies out of the construction site itself, and therefore its manager. She chose targets that the villagers could see with their own eyes. They were clear and easy to understand. The villagers acknowledged that everyone at the dam construction site was their enemy, and that construction site manager was the enemy commander. Using the same method, she labeled one after another as an enemy of the village, practically cataloging a list of enemies to print into the villagers' minds. I don't know how much I buy this, to be honest. This idea that it was all Oryou's silent will and people fulfilling it. Like, I kind of believe this. I can get it. I definitely believe this idea that if Oryou expects something, it will happen, right? And everyone will do their best to support that. But, like, I don't know how much I buy that that's the explanation for this, right? Let's keep going, though. Earlier, I had used the term infecting for this phenomenon. Those infected by this idea were the people unconsciously giving the orders to commit murder. When the infection spread across the village, when all of Hinamizawa's residents acknowledged the same enemy, that's when Hinamizawa itself became a murderer. Oryou combined these 2 elements, a solidarity region and having the same moral standards, then selected the enemy and spread that notion throughout the village. The law would normally have punished both the one who committed the crime and the one who gave the order, but Oryou's system didn't require an order at all. Oryou just had to become concerned about the enemy she had pre-selected, but that alone wouldn't cause the curse to take place. Oryou's concern was like a safety device, and even when the safety device was off, the curse wouldn't occur unless there was a finger to pull the trigger. The last necessary element was to set a date for execution, the night of Watanagashi, the night to venerate Oyashiro-sama, the guardian deity of Hinamizawa. On that night, the curse of Oyashiro-sama falls upon 2 enemies of the village and they disappear. Everyone in the village acknowledged that as fact. In other words, if the same incident took place on any of the other 364 nights of the year, it would be nothing other than a murder case. But if it happened on the night of Watanagashi, then it would transform into the curse of Oyashiro-sama. The idea that villagers are allowed to kill their enemies on the night of Watanagashi had infected them. The villagers were the cells of this huge creature called Hinamizawa, and each cell would be taught who the enemy was. The set date was basically a green light for whoever was in the best position to kill the enemy. That was the truth of the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Therefore, the one who actually killed Satoshi-kun isn't my enemy. The one who set up this murderous system and the one who named Satoshi-kun's family as the enemy is my enemy. To use a broader definition, Hinamizawa itself and the very system of Oyashiro-sama's curse is my enemy. Hinamizawa itself? That's interesting. Very interesting. I'd wondered before, I've kind of mentioned this, like, what if she was actually the one who caused the great disaster? If she views Hinamizawa itself as the enemy, it's not completely impossible. I'm still, like, again, it's hard for me to be completely sold on this, but, like, not impossible that it was actually Shion, to be honest. I already killed the hag, the one who designed the system. Kimiyoshi, the one whose job it was to infect the villagers with the system, was already in my hands. I just had to find out who else was involved and how much. It was like pulling a weed while being very careful not to break its roots. I announced that Keiichi Maibara was one of the people who snuck into the shrine storage. I was certain that that fact had already spread throughout the underside of the village. In other words, Keiichi Maibara was an object of the curse of Oyashiro-sama now. Takano-san and Toмотake-san were found dead, having been killed in gruesome ways. That was the curse of Oyashiro-sama. In that case, they could demon away 2 more people as sacrifices to calm the anger of Oyashiro-sama. The set date for the curse was already over. But just like what happened to Satoshi-kun, demoning away was allowed a little extra time. Something would happen to Keiichi Maibara within a few days. I'd wait patiently, careful to not let my enemies simply take Keiichi Maibara, my bait. Keiichi had been yelling on the other end of the phone for some time. He kept yelling that he didn't want to go into the ritual storehouse to begin with. He claimed he was simply invited by Takano-san and me. He shouldn't be in danger because of that, he said. He was feeling a sense of crisis and tension. This was going to work. The livelier the bait, the easier it is to spot. Shut up. I've heard enough of your pitiful tears. I hung up the phone. There was no point in talking to him when he got like that. Besides, I'd already achieved my goal. It was to make him realize the danger awaiting him. I took a deep breath and called the house of the village chief.
Hey, Kimiyoshi です。
園崎です。どうです？村長さんは見つかりましたか？
ああ、ミオンちゃんか。片っ端から電話をかけてみたけど、ダメだよ。見つからないんだ。参ったな。どこで油売ってるのかな。
こっちでも心当たりにいろいろと問い合わせましたけど、全然。バッチャにも相談したんですが、青年団を招集して探し回った方がいいだろうということです。
こんな時間にかい？それに別に行方不明になったと決まったわけでもないし。
綿流しの直後ですから、少し慎重に扱った方がいいとのことです。それでも見つからないなら、明朝警察に通報しましょう。見つかる見つからないは別にして、痛くない腹を探られない方がいいでしょうから。
おりょうさんがそう言ったのかい？
はい。直接声を聞かないと信用できないなら、電話先に出させますよ。
いえ、わかりました。青年団を集めて探しましょう。それで見つからなければ、翌朝に警察に通報します。
青年団の連絡もよろしくお願いしますね。私もバッチャの代行ということでそちらに参ります。
ありがとう。すぐにみんなを集めます。
ええ。では。
The youth group had gathered at the Furude shrine. They were going to try to find the mayor. I also had to go in the absence of the hag. Just to be mean, I stopped by the underground torture room to let the mayor know that I was headed to the Furude shrine to search for him. Incidentally, according to the tab on the keychain, this underground torture room was actually called the underground storehouse for ritual implements. This was the man who was yelling that whoever trespasses on the ritual storehouse should be killed. Although it was an underground ritual storehouse, he was there now, atoning for what he had done. It was pretty ironic. Maybe I was the only one who felt that way, though.
Kimiyoshiのおじいちゃん、お具合はいかがですか？
Whoops, clink. Kimiyoshi didn't say a word, but he made a noise with the chain.
今ね、村中でおじいちゃんの姿が見えなくなったって大騒ぎしてますよ。おじいちゃんの家から相談が来たので、青年団を招集して捜索を行うことにしました。これから行ってくるところです。
Was this mean or what? Kimiyoshi could only make noise with the chain. He couldn't even express any emotion other than anguish.
鎖、少し長くしてあげましょうか。私の質問にちゃんと答えてくれるたびに。そうですね。あと3個も長くなれば、だいぶ楽になると思うんですけどね。
Yo, this is straight up evil. Kimiyoshi's hands were tied behind his back with a tight wire. He was wearing a leather collar with a chain, which was strapped tightly around his neck, too. The collar's chain was on a pulley attached to the ceiling, with the chain pulling him up towards it. That chain was very short and pulled very tight. Kimiyoshi had to stand on tiptoes to be able to breathe. He had been like that for almost an hour already. He was already exhausted. If I left him overnight, he'd probably end up hanging himself.
さっきは知らないと言われましたけど、もう一回尋ねます。北条聡くんについて知っていることを教えてください。ああ、ごめんなさい。喋りたくても喋れません？じゃあ、私とおしゃべりの間だけ、ちょっと緩めましょう。
I turned the pulley just a little to loosen the chain that was pulling on Kimiyoshi's neck. Kimiyoshi's heels finally touched the ground, relieving the pressure on his muscles.
知らないんだよ、シオンちゃん。本当に知らないんだ。
サトシ君が生きてるのか死んでるのか。
おじいちゃんは本当に何も知らないんだよ。
ま、Hinamizawaのたたりのシステムは、そういう部分で機密性を保持していますからね。おじいちゃんが知らないというのもありえなくはないことです。なら聞き方を変えます。サトシ君がどうなってるのか。Kimiyoshi家当主の立場でご意見を伺いたいです。サトシ君は生きてる？死んでる？
Kimiyoshi didn't know what to say. If he said he didn't know, I'd tighten the chain and leave the room. That would be like a death sentence for him. But all I said was that I wanted him to speak as the head of the Kimiyoshi family. I didn't ask him to tell the truth, but he didn't know what to say to avoid souring my mood and to get me to loosen the chains around him. He was obviously trying to figure out how to make me extend the chain.
生きてるんじゃないかって噂を聞いたことがある。
ああ、新幹線で東京にってやつですね。
警察が東京で姿を見たというようなのを聞いた覚えが。
Oishi had told me that Satoshi-kun had been witnessed getting on a bullet train heading to Tokyo and Nagoya Station, but the police didn't know if that really happened or what became of Satoshi-kun after that. Therefore, this was simply a random assertion of Kimiyoshi's.
ねえ、Kimiyoshi家の当主様、呪われた一族、北条家の人間をわざわざ失踪なんていう凝った消し方をしていて、わざわざ生かしておくのにどんな理由があるんです？ないんじゃないですか？それに、その東京で警察が見たという情報ソースを教えてください。私は大石と一時期連絡を密にしていましたが、そんなのは聞いたことないです。おじいちゃん、私の機嫌を取ろうとしていい加減なことを言ったなら、かえって怒っちゃいますよ。
She is menacing. I reached for the pulley controlling the chains around Kimiyoshi, and that act alone sent him panicking as he feared them tightening once more.
ごめんよ。別にシオンちゃんを怒らせようなんてつもりはないんだよ。
私、ご機嫌取りの話なら聞きたくないんで、Kimiyoshiのおじいちゃんにサトシ君のことを調べる協力をお願いしてるだけなんです。
わかってる。ちゃんと真面目に考えるから。
I took my hand off the pulley. Seeing that, Kimiyoshi began making loud groaning noises to try and show he was thinking hard.
ズバリ、生きていると思いますか？死んでいると思いますか？
生きてると考えるのは難しいんじゃないかと思う。
Yikes.
ですよね。生かしておくことで伴う膨大なリスクを負う意味ないですもんね。私だって同感ですし。
I really didn't mean anything too deep by it, but what I said truly scared Kimiyoshi.
警察は、叔母殺しの犯人がサトシ君で、サト子の誕生日プレゼントを買うために貯めてた貯金で逃亡したと、そう考えてました。この辺、どう思います？
でも、その犯人は確か麻薬中毒の危ないやつだと聞いたよ。
あれ、どう思います？私は私がこう言うのも変だけど、サトシ君が叔母殺しの犯人だって信じてるんですよ。あいつは例えばばあさんあたりに買収されて仕立て上げられた身代わりじゃないかと思うんですけど。
それはおじいちゃんも思ってたよ。突然ひょっこりと真犯人でしたなんて言われて。
Yeah, it would be kind of hard to just believe he did it.
腑に落ちなかった。
やっぱり身代わり？
多分そうじゃないかと思うよ。
何のためにだと思います？
警察はサトシ君が犯人だと思って捜査を進めてたんだよね。サトシ君を鬼隠しということで失踪させておきたいと思うなら、警察の捜査がいつまでも続くのは面白くなかったんじゃないかな。
What Kimiyoshi just said is very interesting. He's perfectly correct. If the police continued their investigation, it would complicate things for whoever demoned away Satoshi-kun. Therefore, the hag came up with a decoy in order to bring an end to the investigation.
でも、そんな犯人のでっち上げなんて、そうそう簡単にできることじゃないですよ。
お嬢さん以外にはできないよ。そんなことは。
ばあさんが裏の世界で相当の力を持ってるというのは、私も知ってはいますけど、そんなにもあったんですね。
シオンちゃんだっていろいろとダウン戦争の頃から噂は聞いてるだろうし、中には実際に直接聞いたものもあるんじゃないかい？
Honestly, this doesn't surprise me that she's powerful enough to fabricate a suspect like that. I've kind of suspected that for a while. During the dam protests, I actually saw them issuing orders to my relatives. Like, destroy their heavy machinery. Or can we set up a checkpoint to blockade their construction vehicles? They set free their comrades from the police by coming up with alibis, destroying or forging evidence. I had seen relatives do those things, as well as the hag calling in counselors to the house to protest. As a child, I was pretty impressed, but when I thought back, it was more than that. She was truly the mastermind who controlled the underside of the world.
シオンちゃんだって建設省の幹部の息子というか建設大臣の孫だな。あれの誘拐事件の話は知ってるだろう。
Yeah, Toshiki Inukai.
あれって、やっぱ誘拐だったんですか？孫が鬼隠しになって、高津戸だか矢河内だかの山奥で見つかったって話は知ってたんですけどね。
あれはお嬢さんの指図によるものだよ。ダム工事の中止の約束が取り付けられたんで、孫を釈放したっていうのは、おじいちゃんたち旧同盟の幹部ならみんな知ってる。
身近にいすぎて私がよく分かってなかっただけで、やっぱりばあさんとか御三家とか旧同盟って大したもんだったんですね。怖い怖い。
Kimiyoshi finally realized the situation he was in, and he was answering my questions. That made me happy, but the more Kimiyoshi told me the truth, the more I realized Satoshi-kun really was dead. That made me very sad.
サトシ君を鬼隠しにした実行犯は誰だと思います？
I don't think he's gonna know that.
わからないよ。
Would have been a little too convenient.
それに誰が実際にやったかは問わないのが不分律だったから。
Okay, that makes it sound like he actually does believe it's Oryu's orders, like the curse victims. He was right. That was how the system worked. And so, that was a bad question.
誰がやったにせよ、大したものですよね。だって、人を殺して死体も出てこないなんて、結構簡単なことじゃないんじゃないですか？
誰が殺したかは別にして、例えば死体の処理をお嬢さんが手伝ったという可能性は考えられるよ。今いるここの奥に死体を捨てるための井戸があることは知ってるだろ。
She knows all about it.
ああ、確かに。どこかの山中に埋めるくらいなら、ここの井戸に捨てる方が絶対に安全ですもんね。
Kind of wonder why she hasn't thought to check down there for Satoshi yet, to be honest. Whoever disappears become a sacrifice to calm the anger of Oyashiro-sama. That was the rule of this game. Therefore, the bodies must never be discovered. That's why the bodies had to be dumped somewhere nobody could find them. It's very possible that the well was used for that. Then, Satoshi-kun is at the bottom of that well? I grabbed a flashlight and headed to the huge cave with all the cells. As I turned on the lights in the cave, Mio noticed me and gave me a worried look. I ignored her and headed to the cell in the back. I was still very impressed by how the well was hidden. It was almost artistic. I mean, at this point, the body would be decomposed, right? Like, surely. I shone the flashlight at the bottom of the well. I had no way of knowing how deep the well was. The light of the flashlight wasn't strong enough to reach the bottom. I inhaled, then screamed into the well.
Satoshi-kun!
Satoshi-kun's name echoed again and again. It was obviously a very deep well. I thought of climbing down using the wedges on the wall, but with the flashlight hanging from my neck, I couldn't light my footing properly. And even if there was enough lighting, I didn't even know if the wedges were sturdy enough. It would be like committing suicide. Satoshi-kun was at the bottom of this well. That's when I felt it. A warm hand rubbed my head for sure. Shion, you finally found me. Satoshi-kun, Satoshi-kun, Satoshi-kun. I've been looking for you for so long. I'm sorry I couldn't find you while you were still alive. I'm sorry. It's not your fault, Shion. There was nothing you could have done before I was killed, but you did everything you could do after I was dead. Satoshi-kun, I want to join you. I'm coming right now. I'm going to jump, so please catch me. Satoshi-kun smiled bitterly. I was saddened to see him reject me. Shion, I'm happy that you found me. But you are alive, Shion. It's so important to be alive. You can't waste it. If you aren't here, I don't want to live. I want to be with you, Satoshi-kun. I want to be close to you. I want you to rub my head again. I want to spend time with you. I'll be a good girl. I want to be with you. Live. Do I have to? Live and enjoy your life, okay? What's so fun about living alone? You'll find out so long as you're alive.
生きる。生きるよ。生きる。
The eerie well now felt warm. I wasn't allowed to go down to the bottom. But the edge of this well was the place where you and I could meet. Hmm.
ミオン。サトシ君。見つけた。井戸の底なんだね。そうだと、そこしかないもん。
Mion started to sob.
ミオンは、サトシ君が殺されるところには居合わせなかったんだよね。うん。もし居合わせたら、サトシ君を許してもらえるよう、ばあさんに意見してくれたかな。絶対にする。せめて命だけはって。嘘だ。え？嘘だー！
On that day, a year ago, I had just recalled how cruel Mion was then, when she forced me to rip out my nails, acting in her role as the successor. Oh, snap. Oh, man. She's, like, kinda done believing Mion, it seems. Even if she was there when Satoshi-kun was killed, she wouldn't have stopped being the successor. That is, I'm honestly 100% with you on that. Satoshi-kun was brought to the torture room. When he saw Mion, I'm sure he thought she would save him. Even as he heard the family head read out his death sentence, I'm sure he looked at Mion and believed that she would save him. He believed Mion was acting that way only because she was with her relatives. He believed she would help him, but she didn't do anything. He was strapped to a restraining device, yet she still wouldn't do anything. Mion was cruel. Mion, isn't it about time to help me? I see. I get it. You're with the rest of the family members, so you can't show even a hint of compassion. That sucks.
なんで助けないの。サトシ君の助けを懇願する眼差しを見て、どうして心を動かされなかったの。
Whew. Yeah, she's lost it.
あんたはサトシ君が意地悪おばのせいで追い詰められていた時から何も救いを差し伸べなかった。あんたは同情する素振りを見せるだけで助けなかった。見殺した。あんたがサトシ君を助けなかったから、私は救おうと頑張ったよ。彼の心の支えになろうと頑張った。あんたらがサトシ君のおば殺しをかばわなくても、私は彼のアリバイのために自らを投げ打って戦った。その結果が爪3枚なんて安いもんでしょ。でもね、それだけの努力じゃサトシ君を救うには全然足りなかった。
Honestly, I don't know that Shion's wrong. Like, actually, like with the pretended to sympathize, but you didn't help him, right? Like, there are a lot of ways Mion, if she really was willing to go against Oryu's will, right, and like beg to help him, she could have done that at many points, and she never did. I don't know. She might not be wrong.
届かなかった。どうしてか。だって私はシオンだったんだもん。シオンはHinamizawaから遠ざけられていて、 何からも戸ざまで何も教えられなくて知れなくて。でもあんたは違う。あんたはミオンだった。あんたはひなみざわのうちにいて、全ての中心で全てを教えられて全てを知ることができた。私があんただったらきっとサトシ君を救えた。私なら救ってあげられた。あんたがミオンになったからだ。返してミオン。もともとミオンはあんただけのもんじゃない。私のものでもあったはず。それにもともとミオンは私のじゃない。私があんたに貸してあげるようになっただけで本当は私のだったじゃない。
No way. Don't tell me. Don't tell me that my... Oh no. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way that Shion is actually the original Mion, and that's why she has the demon. I think I mentioned this at one point. I wasn't super duper, like 100% sold on this, but I know I mentioned it. Oh my god, if this is fucking true.
返せ！私のミオンを返せ！お前がミオンの外見をしているだけでもブシズが走る。お前じゃなく私がミオンだったら、
I kicked the bars. I kicked them again and again. Mion curled up fearfully in the back of the cell, as if she were trying to prevent the bars from crashing down onto her. Oh, snap. Oh, and that's how we're gonna end it. Dude, I think like I said, I wasn't like, that wasn't something I like guessed in the theory video. I don't think I mentioned that. I swear to you guys, it is in my notes. I promise you, it is in my notes. Right? Like, we're gonna read the tip. I'm gonna have to pull that one up. I swear to you, look, again, I don't think I came out and was like, you know, guns blazing for that, but I really had genuinely considered it. I don't know, and maybe that was like not completely true, right? Like maybe her saying that, but like, it's mine too. Besides, it was mine to begin with, remember? I just let you be Mion, remember? Like, to me, that reads they switched, and that explains the demon in Shion, and why Mion has never exhibited that, right? Like, oh my. Tell me Mion is acting like the Mion that we know. Tell me she's just been acting the role the whole time. Oh my god. Oh, if that's true. After that, I joined the youth group in the search for Kimiyoshi. I went down the town council's phone directory and called to see if he had visited, and had the group split according to the circular notice divisions and sent them to search the town. Everybody seemed to be assuming they wouldn't find him, but since I knew they definitely never would, it was just bothersome to me. Even after midnight, they were all still enthusiastically looking for him. I bore the sleepiness while yawning. Then I heard somebody whisper, "Last year. We did the same thing when Satoshi Hojo-kun went missing. The youth group was looking for someone who would never be found, just like last year." I was yawning because I knew this. Last year there must also have been some people who were yawning and grinning on the inside.
去年の捜索って何時に終わりましたっけ？
あ？北条んとこのサトシん時かい？あれは何時だったっけ？
午前の0時過ぎぐらいには解散したような気がするな。
It was already 2 in the morning. Clearly shows their opinion of him, in Shion's eyes at least. Although they spent this much time searching for Kimiyoshi, they didn't do the same thing when Satoshi-kun went missing. After all, some people knew they wouldn't find him. They must have been sleepy. They must have said they should leave it to the police. Shit. I want to kill the people who said that. Okay, so, I mean, if it's not obvious, Shion she's broken. So in this chapter, we see Shion, like, start to, imitate Mion. And the first thing that entails is going to school and kind of starting to develop this, like, rapport with Keiichi in a way, where she kind of gets him to understand the gravity of the situation so that he can try to keep an eye out for things and maybe anything suspicious so she can maybe figure out who's doing things. She's using him as bait, without a doubt. Like, and she's saying as much. He is bait, right? And I mean, like, that's a big deal, of course. But there's more to it than that. First of all, you have Oishi, and he seems to know a lot, as always. How does he know so much? Just assumptions? Does he actually have insider information here? It's so hard to know with Oishi, to be honest. So I don't really know. I'm still suspicious of him though. But then we get the bombshell is the meeting. That was the big scene this chapter, in my opinion. The meeting and afterwards, and like the Kimiyoshi, of course. Like from the meeting on is when things get crazy. First of all, in the meeting, it's kind of like when Shion realizes just how much these people want, like the curse victims dead, right? Like they approved of this, and when she mentioned that Shion, you know, like while she was acting as Mion, and Keiichi were in on this, it didn't really seem like things changed, right, to her, and so she realized that these people genuinely like they have no mercy on these people, right? Like they truly believe that you stepped foot in the storehouse, yeah, you deserve to die, right? Glad it wasn't my grandchild, you know, like that was like what was happening in there. And she meets with Kimiyoshi, and it seems like a fine meeting, and maybe she was gonna let him go at first. I don't know. Maybe that was the plan, but she kind of gets some information out of him regarding Shion and how like he would fight for her. Like Kiichiro would fight for Shion, and his trust was a little misplaced. But he mentions basically that the reason Shion would be okay was because she wasn't a Hojo, right? She was a Sonozaki. And that was the wrong thing to say to Shion, right? In this moment, in her current mind state, mental state. Absolutely, you do not say, yes, you're gonna live because you're not a Hojo. The Hojo, though, he got no mercy. He didn't deserve any. Family of traitors. Maybe make it sound a little worse than he put it, but not by much, right? Like, he was not exactly mincing his words there, and he got stunned, and he's getting tortured and interrogated. And it's kind of the consensus now is that Satoshi's dead and at the bottom of the well, which unfortunately makes a lot of sense to me. But the real bombshells, in my opinion, were one, Shion kind of pointing out that Mion is very possibly lying, right? Like, when she says, like, I would have helped him, I promise I wasn't there. Look, maybe she wasn't there. But the reality is, would she have helped him if she was? I don't think she would have, to be completely truthful, right? If she was going to do that, like, she might have helped him before it got to this point. She might have helped him with an alibi. Again, Shion literally did explicitly tell her not to do that, in all fairness. But, and so that was already a big enough deal. It was like, she could have helped before, right? Like, when he was suffering, when he was being abused, and they did nothing because he was a Hojo. If she was really willing to go against Oryou's will, right? She could have, right? I don't know. I think there's a good chance she just was a bystander there, right? If she was willing to let Shion get 3 of her fingernails ripped out while she was around the family, would she have really begged, like, Oryou in front of other people? No. Look, maybe she would have felt bad afterwards. Maybe she would have found a way to atone like she did with Shion's fingernails, right? But, like, that didn't help Satoshi live. You know? I'm just saying. It really didn't. So, I don't know. I don't think she's wrong about that. But then there was if it's true, in my opinion, this is one of the biggest bombshells Higo has dropped in a while. And like I said, I promise you guys, I genuinely considered this one, right? Let me pull up my documents. Okay, so I had to check a few things. I'm going to drag this over. First of all, let's start with the version history. This has not been edited in 4 months. 4 months. And let's go to question 8. right here, I think there's a non-zero chance that Mion either isn't the successor or wasn't intended to be the successor. If I think it was Shion going crazy at the end, that implies Shion had the demon implanted into her at a young age when that is supposed to be a Sonozaki heir thing. Maybe the reason Shion has so much resentment towards Mion is the fact that Mion took the successor role in spite of her going through with the demon thing. Right? Okay, so at the time, I don't think that is why she has so much resentment towards Mion. You know, looking at it now. I'm guessing she gave up that role, right? And she was fine with this. But this is something I genuinely considered. I'm sorry, I know that I might not even have the right reasons. This might not be super relevant, but I cannot believe I even considered this, and it looks like it might be correct. I actually deleted it, I believe, from the updated version because I thought that it was so... like, it was such a potential stretch that I'm pretty sure I removed it. I could be wrong, did I? No, I didn't. Wait, did I mention this in the video? Was this in the theory video? Dude, it might have been. Dude, if I got that right, I feel real good about myself. I am just saying. Okay. So, we've talked about this chapter. We've talked about the tips. We've talked about... I flexed a little. Look, again, like I said, it really isn't that big of a flex, because even if it's correct, and it's not confirmed, to be clear, it was just one statement. This was something I already suspected, but, you know, I don't really have the right... I didn't necessarily have all the right reasons, you know, so it's not like it was a massive dub, and it's not like... Oh, wait, I mentioned this elsewhere. Oh, okay, wait. Here we are. Even if this was true, I don't know how relevant it is, but I think there's a non-zero chance that at least in the past, Shion was the successor, or was at least considered for it. I think that the demon is just HC, but purposefully given to the successor, that would make it possible that she at least was the successor. Unless I see a twist where this would genuinely matter, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Basically, it was like, look, I could go out on a limb for this one, but I don't know how this would actually impact things super heavily, so I'm not going to go out on a limb for this one, so I don't know. Either way, like I said, might not be quite the flex I wanted it to be. But still, like, feels pretty good. But yeah, so I think that's it for this. We're going to record another one. I need a quick break. We're going to actually save for once. I am so looking forward to seeing how this continues. Shion is going nuts. And I'm really curious to see if we're going to get any more bombshells, maybe follow up on the Shion-Mion reversal thing. Hey, so this is actually where the video ends. You guys probably noticed that, but at the time I was planning to continue. I did not end up continuing that night. Instead, I continued the next day. This video was about 2 hours long. The next one ended up being about 2 hours long. I was gonna try to combine them, but I'm like, let's not make a 4-hour video when I literally just have two 2-hour videos. So this is the outro for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I already recapped, I thought this was a really good episode. And so no need to recap it anymore. I hope you guys are looking forward to the next episode. It will probably be out tomorrow at this rate. I just figure I'll just keep the uploads moving fast, and then we'll see when I get to chapter 6, and I'll just keep moving then, you know? I'm not done with chapter 5 yet. I think I have one episode to go, though. I can tell you right now, the next episode is very good, so I hope you guys stick around for more. I enjoyed this episode. I also enjoyed the next episode, and like I said, next episode probably tomorrow, so I hope to see you guys there. Peace.